A lonely guy was extremely lucky when the immortality system struck him like lightning. The system immediately wrapped around him like chains and informed him that he had received the immortality system. He still kept groping his body and face. He couldn't figure out if he was reborn or if it was something else. Eventually, the guy came to the conclusion that he had teleported. All he remembered was that a fat cat appeared in front of his eyes. When the cat fell on the guy's head, it seemed to have broken his cervical vertebrae and thus killed him. A funny yet frightening death at the same time. Pulled out of his depressing thoughts, a system appeared in front of the guy. The death rating was 0. Skill points awarded 1. Skill points remaining 1. Other awards. Increased aura. However, the death rating threw the guy into a stupor, as he didn't understand what it was. Xiao Mu looked at the system window and became furious. He didn't realize where he'd gotten to. Would he now have to die every time to pump the system? In a rage, hitting the wall, which all crumbled, the guy complains that only the power increased after death, and therefore not very profitable to die. Noticing the hole his fist left, the guy abruptly changed his mood from anger to grace and joy. Now he was cool, and the system was very useful. This made the joyful guy look at the system window again. There were also skills there after all. Looking at the system window for a long time, he even cried and began to complain about the hard life. Because it seems that this system has no manual for simple beginners. He would also have to die alone. Suddenly he heard a noise, like some passerby complaining about a guy lying down. The passerby didn't understand why the guy was lying on the road. At this moment, the reborn ragamuffin realized that his body was still lying on the road. Looking around carefully, he ran over to his body. Rummaging through his pockets, the guy found gold coins. It seems that he copies his stuff after resurrection, as he had the same amount of coins in his new body. He even gets the super genius idea of using the system to accumulate as much money as possible. But after looking at his body, he begins to complain that dying is actually very painful. However, he has no way out and needs to somehow use the system he received in order to improve his life. He even reassures himself with the thought that he has already died once, so he has nothing to fear anymore. The first thing he decides to do is to accelerate as hard as possible and smash his head into the wall. The passers-by are in incredible shock. They have never seen such a thing before, and the guy's skull cracked as he had hoped. The next time, he decided to scare other people, when the nobleman demonstrated excellent bow skills and tried to hit an apple. Instead, the guy probably earned himself a mental breakdown as he hit the protagonist in the heart. The next plan meant that he would have to spend money, and after all, he wanted to earn it. He succumbed to one of the deadly sins, gluttony. After all these attempts, the system gave him a death rating of F. Skill points remaining was equal to 1, and the rewards were all the same. He had to go through such humiliations and invitations, but the system gave him nothing, and his death rating became F. Suddenly, the system window showed some truly frightening news for the guy. There are limits to resurrections, and it's exactly 5 per week, and the guy only has 1 resurrection left. He is saddened to read this, because it turns out that if he accidentally dies after the number of resurrections is over, he will not be able to resurrect again. In his past life, he had a hard time, so not finding any other way out of his life, he jumped into the water. He had died in his past life, and now he had a system. He must not let himself perish again. Smashing the ground beneath him with his fist, he makes the decision that he can't just die, even if he improves his skills in the process. Taking a determined course, he decides to find another way to pump up the levels of the system. After all, he needs to establish himself in this world that is new to him. Thinking about his life and walking around the city, he witnessed a debtor refusing to return the money. The guy asked to return the debt, because they agreed that the man would return the money today, as the guy's mother needs the money and he can't do that to her. The debtor, however, refuses to return the money. He even offers the poor guy to kill him, but he will not give anything. The protagonist, on the other hand, in this moment he has grasped a benefit for himself. When the borrower leaves after beating up the person to whom he owes the money, he appears, a knight in shining armor, but still in tattered clothes. The protagonist asks the guy if he wants the protagonist to help him repay his debt. The sunlight itself seemed to illuminate his countenance and godlike appearance, yet the battered fellow did not realize who was before him at all. Not the least bit embarrassed, the protagonist told the poor guy that he specialized in helping people recover debts. After a while, the protagonist finds the man and demands money from him. The man is furious. He is not going to give anything. He offers the protagonist to even kill him, but he will give nothing. However, the tone of the cocky man changes dramatically when the protagonist draws his sword. The man, swathed in cold sweat, doesn't realize what's going on, and whether the guy right in front of him is really plotting to kill him. The protagonist reassures the man, for this is not what he came for. The man even breathed a sigh of relief, but that wasn't the end of it, for he informs him that his ghost will take care of the case. The protagonist will use his sword against himself. The man is shocked. Did the guy decide to just die like that? Death rating increased to D. Skill points awarded 2. Skill points remaining 3. Weekly resurrection 0 out of 5. The protagonist was very happy that the rating had increased. However, all attempts at resurrection were spent. A week later, in the house of the man in front of whom the poor man had died, suddenly there was a chill. A frightening shadow hovered over the man's bed, from which he shook with fear. When he opened his eyes, he saw before him the same guy who had died a week ago. The protagonist had come to demand money from the man. The man turned white with fear and begged for help. And a moment later, the protagonist was already standing on the street and contentedly holding the very money in his hands. Meanwhile, the man was calling his mother for help. A week later, the woman offered the man a drink of medicine. However, when the man was about to drink it, suddenly the bowl in front of him seemed to vaporize. In fact, it did not vaporize, but the protagonist snatched it up and drank the contents in a volley to the surprised faces of those present. After this medicine, the protagonist's mouth bled, and then he fell to the floor and his life was over. The still recently sickly man jumped out of bed and chased after the fleeing woman who wanted to poison him. The lady begged for mercy, for the great official of the southern gate had personally given her this order. An hour later, the man and the protagonist met in some alley. The man even cried, for he never thought the protagonist would be so selfless, so he asks that the protagonist not refuse the reward. Faking his role, the protagonist notes that everything is fine, and he will accept the reward from him, since the man insists. A whole 3 months have passed in this manner. Now he sat peacefully and sipped his tea. He had died to others and beaten off debts, and that was how he had risen to prominence. His skills had made him famous throughout the city. As long as he had to die in the place of others, his grade continued to rise. After so many sacrifices he had to make, his body has become noticeably stronger. He can now extend his arms up to 500 meters, far surpassing normal humans in abilities. He even runs at a speed of 10 meters per second. However, there is one problem. The rating doesn't rise above D. If he wanted to raise the rankings, he would need to organize something massive. As far as his knowledge of this world and understanding was concerned, this world, a world where immortals and martial arts coexist, there are many robbers and villains in the world. Such people need to be dealt with in a special way, but their physical skills are still low, so it wouldn't be difficult for him to deal with them. However, the system, unfortunately for him, can't make him younger. Therefore, he won't stop growing. And when he dies, the system will also die. He will only be able to watch the fun and continue playing even as an old man. Since there is such a flaw, he needs to master cultivation. Only then will he be able to find a way out. Suddenly, he was brought out of his musings by a request. Someone came and inquired if a debt collector known in the area was here. This guest turned out to be an incredibly beautiful girl who had a blindfold over her eyes and came with her request. The guy immediately admits that the girl has come to the right place and he is the famous Chow Mu. He notices how beautiful the girl is, and yet she is blind, and that this is a standard story for stories of a certain genre. The girl reveals that the entire Chow family was wiped out. The Wujihui clan is responsible. It happened 6 months ago, and that she is the only survivor of the massacre. She has come to ask for a debt of blood. She would like Chow Mu to help her get revenge. In exchange, she offers the guy just what he was looking for. She offers to train him in the immortality punch, which is famous in the Chow family. When the girl looms over him, he asks a stupid question. Chow Mu asks the girl what her last name is, and whether she happens to be Ning. A while later, the market is quite noisy, and Chow Mu is looking for the owner of one of the stores. After finding the right owner, he complains that how can the owner of this particular outlet even sell groceries? Chow Mu even asks that the man cut up a watermelon for him, as he wants to take a look at it. The owner is furious and looks at Chow Mu threateningly, trying to understand why he came to him. Chow Mu has only come to make a scene. However, the owner was not pleased with Chow Mu's actions and decided to slaughter him. Chow Mu was just waiting for this, then notices that the man is indeed a martial arts master. He also accuses the man of being known as Butcher Zhen, and that he killed the entire Chow family. So Chow Mu comes to take revenge on the butcher. However, Butcher Zhen easily knocks the guy out. He only managed to send a heart sign with his fingers. Everyone in the neighborhood is shocked, and in the meantime, a fountain of blood formed from Chow Mu's head. That's how Chow Mu's life ended. Meanwhile, the other townspeople called Butcher Zhen a murderer and wanted to catch him. But Butcher Zhen is not a simple man. So taking a knife with his teeth and then getting on a makeshift transportation, he fled from the city. Hiding in the shadows of the building, Chow Mu has already managed to resurrect. He complains that he was in incredible pain from that blow. Approaching his body while everyone else is in anger or panic, he takes the gold he had. This time he demands a bigger reward from the system than usual. Death rating increased to C. Skill points awarded, 10. Skill points remaining, 20. 4 more attempts at weekly resurrection. Skill increase cost, 5. The immortality punch was at the introduction level that he had already passed. Chow Mu was so excited that he had finally obtained a C rating. However, after looking at the system again, he was perplexed. Would skill points really be deducted? He now wasn't sure if it was the right decision to activate the system at all. And it turns out that he could improve his skills by spending points. 5 points could be exchanged for mastering the immortality punch. If that was the case, where would the remaining 20 points be used? He decided to demand the system to grant him the immortality punch skill. What was the guy's surprise when the system informed him that the host's death score did not meet the standard, so the selection function has not yet been unlocked for him, and until then the system will allocate points randomly. He was too surprised by this turn of events after all. Did he have to find more sophisticated methods to part with his life or what? However, he decided to leave it for now, as he still had Butcher Zhen in mind. Chow Mu couldn't leave this butcher so easily, and he wanted to fight him a few more times. Somewhere on the outskirts of the city, abandoning his transportation, the butcher immediately ran into a house. There he immediately started writing a report to his master, how he didn't hold back and killed the guy who claimed that Butcher Zhen had slaughtered the entire Chow family. But the butcher remembered that the Chow family had been completely exterminated, so he didn't know how the impudent guy could know that. Attaching his report to the bird's foot, the butcher even suggested that maybe someone had managed to survive that night. And certainly if so, he should get rid of anyone who knew of the incident. However, for too long he pondered about it, and a guest had already rushed to his house. The guest called himself Chiao Qing and said that the butcher had killed his brother Chow Mu. So he demanded that the butcher pay for this sin with his blood. The guy rushed at the butcher with a cry for his family's heritage. The butcher immediately waved his knife in his direction. The knife seemed to cut the sausage exactly in the middle. Chow Mu notices that the point of the knife is in his hand, and then what will the butcher do next? The butcher is surprised by such a question, as if the guy doesn't know what the butcher is going to do. The guy is already almost crying in pain, but he certainly wasn't going to give up. So he asks the very obvious question of whether the butcher is going to kill him. Even Butcher Zhen, who had seen a lot of people and situations in his life, thought the guy was mentally ill. He tried to pull the point out of the guy's hand, but Chow Mu took advantage of this moment and hit the butcher in the face. After flying some distance away but not falling, the butcher notices that the guy is different from his brother and that he is much more powerful than his brother. However, the man decides that next time he will not make such blunders again. 5 minutes later, the butcher still manages to knock the guy out. That's how Chow Qing died. Butcher Zhen notices that the guy managed to get revenge on his brother, but he was definitely in over his head. Butcher Zhen even breathed a sigh of relief, called the bird, and decided that the situation had changed, and therefore it was not worth sending a report to the Lord for the time being. At the same moment, Butcher Zhen was able to dodge the piece of window flying at him on instinct alone. Another brother had appeared who was not going to forgive him and wanted to avenge his brother's death. Seeing the flying guy with a glowing aura, even the bird was frightened. Butcher Zhen was also already scared as well, but he tried not to show it and was about to let another one of his brothers die. The bird still managed to fly away, and Butcher and another brother from the Chow family were drawn into a terrifying battle where lives were at stake. Butcher Zhen emerged victorious from this hard fight. He was exhausted, he wasn't so young anymore, and it was hard to compete with the youth. He had already defeated 3 people and 1 more in the city. He was already exhausted and hoped that he had finally finished off all the brothers. Chow Mu was hiding behind a statue at this time. After the first death, he had 5 points taken off. The second time, 2 points were taken off, and his skill level increased by 20%. The last 2 times, only 1 point each was taken off, and the skill increased to 40%. But the rating was lowered and became D again. This leads Xiao Mu to conclude that it seems that the higher the mastery level, the more points will be deducted. The lower the rating, the fewer points would be randomly assigned, so there were quite a few restrictions and nuances, and he couldn't fight one opponent forever. He only had 1 weekly resurrection left. He was even considering going back in a week. Glancing at his enemy once again, he thought that it was better to end things now. After all, for now Butcher Zhen is weak after the attack of the last spears, so it is definitely not worth giving up. Xiaomo uses recovery, uses experience points, uses exaltation. In the fourth fight, relying only on 20% fist skill, he is almost equal to Butcher Zhen. He may not be able to fight like this again, but he decides it's worth a try. After looking at his prey, he decides to finish the task early and then start a new one. Butcher Zhen was still pondering over what had happened. These guys seemed too similar to him, yet each one was stronger than the previous one. It was as if the strength of each newcomer was growing, and the skills were becoming more powerful. The strength of the last one was almost the same as Butcher Zhen. He was even afraid that the next one would definitely be able to overpower him. While the butcher waited, no one ever showed up, so he rejoiced that it was finally over. At the same moment, all of the butcher's hopes and appeasement were wiped away as the guy appeared in front of him once again, and this time the butcher could only watch helplessly as Xiao Mu attacked him. For this one strike, the butcher was defeated. He never managed to survive the encounter with the fifth brother. Xiao Mu collected bags of money from his alleged brothers. He also found a secret letter, in which was the confirmation of the information that Butcher Zhen was the one who destroyed the Qiao family. The first time Xiao Mu was killed by Butcher's knife, then Xiao Mu's rating became C. He wonders if the death rating will be related to the identity of the person who defeated him, and will the death rating at the hands of the villain be high? He decides that he needs to find all these questions and speculations some confirmation. He still can't understand the rest of what was written, so he decides to show it to the girl and find out from her. After a long interval, he arrived at the alley of Yangcheng City. He had finally returned. The girl immediately opened up to him and wondered where he had been all this time. However, at the same instant, she turned back and noticed that the voice was different from Xiao Mu and that he was not Xiao Mu. The guy had roughly expected this from a blind girl who had lived alone for over half a year. He even contemplates the fact that his muscles have gotten even stronger in that time. Xiao Mu asks the girl to believe him and that his voice has just changed. The girl asks for some proof. He gives the same nonsense about the surname Ning. The girl remembers Xiao Mu asking her that stupid question for a month. The girl immediately hugged him, which even the guy was shocked by. Xiao Mu was so happy with the girl's gesture and even esteemed it as true happiness. In the end, she agreed that it was Xiao Mu in front of her. After the Qiao family disappeared, her eyes started to move, which is a sign that the eyes of the heavens are about to open. In addition, she is very perceptive, so she asks Xiao Mu not to lie to her. But the guy already knows everything about her. She is the only one left in the Qiao family, but the enemy will not kill her because she is born with spiritual consciousness and is endowed with special talents. Xiao Mu can't wait to learn more techniques. The girl, however, advises him if he wants to perfect it, all he needs to do is to warm up his blood and energy, a process that can take several years. Xiao Mu refuses to work for nothing and demands the fulfillment of the original contract, especially since he's already almost peaked and he could feel it. The girl notices that Xiao Mu is an assertive guy, so he takes him by the hand and decides to see if he has enough strength. I wonder if he will be strong enough for everything she can give him. When the girl touched Xiao Mu, she was struck by lightning for a moment. She abruptly withdrew her hand and blushed all red, and immediately wondered what exactly she had just touched. Somehow the boy was strangely disappointed at the girl's thoughts. The girl's face was all red. They haven't known each other for that long, so she doesn't know if it's normal for them to cultivate together. Once again touching Xiao Mu's hand, the girl thinks that he is incredible. Training strength takes a very long time, and Xiao Mu has already done it. Since she thinks the guy is making great progress, then he asks the girl to teach him something new. Immortality Punch is a unique technique of the Qiao family. If Xiao Mu perfects this technique, he will be able to live much longer. His path will not be easy, but he needs to keep striving for immortality, otherwise the system will be useless in the future. Shuk notes that although Qiao Mu has been practicing for a month, there are hundreds of hidden abilities in this technique. She mentions that in the future, when Qiao Mu has fully mastered Immortality Punch, she will teach Qiao Mu a few more techniques. Qiao Mu even drools while thinking about it. He asks Xue not to worry because he can easily learn everything. He reveals that he has already dealt with Butcher Zhen. The heiress Qiao family is shocked. She can't believe a guy could do something like that. Qiao Mu brags that he not only killed Butcher Zhen, but also got hold of a secret letter. But this kind of writing style he himself can't make out. Qiao Mu holds out the letter to Xue, and she takes one look at it and immediately realizes what the guy is talking about. After all, the letter is written using the cipher used by the Wuji Association. She admits that she now believes that Qiao Mu has defeated Zheng Butcher. In her thoughts, however, she is shocked by this turn of events because she didn't expect Qiao Mu to be able to deal with the butcher at all. Waving the letter, Qiao Mu reminds her that since he has defeated Butcher Zhen, he must continue his training. So he asks the heiress of the Qiao family to come over to him and start meditating. He started meditating, saying that everything tangible is only an illusion, that one reality emerged from many fictions. However, after half an hour of meditation, mastering the Immortality Punch didn't make much progress. Qiao Mu feels that it is better to rely on system rewards rather than practicing on his own, because it is much faster. He even has the thought of finding someone stronger than Butcher Zheng and killing him. Xu, seeing Qiao Mu's confusion, decided to intervene and handed him a dictionary to decipher the texts, asking Qiao Mu to look at and read the letter aloud for her. Looking at the book, the guy is surprised by the fact that Xue can't see the text, but somehow managed to find the right book. He even wonders if Xue is faking it by pretending to be blind. Taking the book, Qiao Mu began to decipher the part of the text from the letter that he hadn't understood before. The letter stated that Emperor Dian was about to travel from the empire's capital, and the Wuji Association was preparing to gather its members to assassinate the emperor. The heiress Qiao family is shocked that the Wuji Association is planning to kill the emperor. She wonders if there are any details in the letter, and she is also curious about the location and when it will happen. Qiao Mu admits that the cipher is pretty hard to translate, and that he's not capable of much more than that, so the specific time and place he can't say. Xue is furious that the Wuji Association is pretty bold. She wonders if they would really dare to do this. Qiao Mu is surprised at how the girl was so easily pissed off. He wonders how strong this association is. Then the heiress of the Qiao family admitted that she had told him earlier that her family had been destroyed, but she did not give a specific reason. Wu Shengzhen, he is the second in the martial arts world. He founded a martial arts club and destroyed many families and clans that practiced martial arts. Because of his power, he humiliated and disrespected other clans and prevented other families from increasing their influence. Immortality Punch is a unique skill of the Qiao family, which is passed down from generation to generation by the descendants of the Qiao family. Wu Shengzhen never managed to get hold of this skill. The clan heiress didn't train Qiao Mu in this skill to kill Wu Shengzhen. She wanted to make sure that when Qiao Mu achieved great success, then no one would be able to clip the guy's wings. All this news made Xue very furious. She would like to kill Wu Shengzhen with her own hands. Qiao Mu looked at the girl carefully. He had never seen her like this and pondered over her words. In the end, Qiao Mu proposes a brilliant idea to Xue. He wants to join the association. The heiress of the Qiao clan is not happy with such a statement and thinks that Qiao Mu has definitely lost his mind. However, Qiao Mu stands up with a victorious face and says that his plan is cunning and that he wants to join the association and then kill the emperor. In this way, he wants to pit the emperor's court against the association, and if he can't pull that off, he thinks he'll at least find out what the association has planned to do. When he finds out the details, he will frame the association and help Xue avenge the Qiao family. The girl thinks this is unrealistic. She even calls the guy a fool. However, Qiao Mu was already unstoppable, and he plunged into his fantasies. He was already excited about killing the emperor. And because of this act, perhaps in the future, his name will even appear in the textbooks after death, so his rating will increase. Other than that, he was excited at the thought that there must be all sorts of skills in the association. He will be able to learn hundreds of techniques, including Immortality Punch. This is the very limit of dreams for him. After thinking it over and returning to the real world once again, he realizes that Wu Shengzhen is very strong and it's almost impossible to kill him, so he decides to at least cause trouble. Qiao Mu even thinks of a great plan he has come up with. Xue is strongly against such a plan because Qiao Mu might get killed during such a dangerous sortie. Qiao Mu, with a nonchalant face, shows the girl with all his looks that they won't be able to kill him. Xu feels that the guy is not lying to her and that he is serious. However, Xue is not sure of the guy's intentions. She can only give Qiao Mu immortality punch, then why is the guy taking such risks? After thinking carefully, Xue comes to one single conclusion. Perhaps Qiao Mu wants her body. Just from that thought, her cheeks just flared up. She covered her face with her hands from all these thoughts, and Qiao Mu just stood there not understanding what was going on. We reluctantly admitted that she felt that she had repaid him too little and wondered how else she could help him. In her own thoughts, she is ashamed of herself for thinking so poorly of Qiao Mu. Suddenly, the guy himself agrees that Xue can help him with something. The girl is very curious about what it is that he can help him with, but Qiao Mu leaves her in disbelief, stating that it's a secret. Xue even exhaled at this point, because since Qiao Mu is not afraid, there is no need to worry about it. It's not easy to get into the association, so Qiao Mu decides to ask Xue if she knows any association representatives in the neighborhood. Xue knows the right person, Guo Yan, the ruler of Yancheng. Meanwhile, we meet young Master Guo, and we can see his subordinates beating passers-by with whips for obstructing their master's passage. The smirking subordinate tells other people not to stand in young Master Guo's way. The guy saw one person. This person was beautiful. This person seemed very nice to him, so he tells the person to come over. However, the man behind the girl drew his sword and told the man on the horse not to even think about it. The girl herself is not going to please such a shameless man, even being on the verge of death. Suddenly, two men with a mountain of muscles grabbed the man and asked him to go to their master. The girl even laughed when she realized that the speech wasn't about her, but the man standing next to her became furious. He called the man a shameless man, and the girl asked Zhang Lang for permission to teach the brazen upstart a lesson. However, Guo is angry about these remarks and tells them to wait to see who else will teach who a lesson. The pumped-up men jumped out from behind Guo and rushed towards the man and woman. They clasped with their bodies a man and a woman who were simply shocked at such unusual techniques. Meanwhile, Qiao Mu lurked right above Guo's head, just as Guo pulled his guard away from him. Taking advantage of the moment, Qiao Mu jumps out of his hiding place, and the impact of the moment he landed caused Mr. Guo's horse and servant to lose consciousness. And Qiao Mu grabs Guo by the throat. Guo orders to let him go, for he is the son of the lord of Yangcheng City, but Qiao Mu doesn't care for these remarks of the lad. With his last strength, Guo shouts joyfully that his father will arrive soon, and then the guy will lose his head. Qiao Mu originally wanted to be righteous and brave. Having killed the son of the city lord, he expected this group to kill him. But if the city lord personally kills him, it's probably even better for him. For all these thoughts, a message from the system suddenly appeared, asking Qiao Mu to act boldly. The current level was C+. Qiao Mu is surprised, because this is the first time a death assessment message has appeared, and it seems the system agrees with his thoughts. The couple who were attacked by the pumped-up men thanked Qiao Mu, but apologized for not being able to help him. The young lord's guards immediately rushed to his lord's aid, and the treacherous Qiao Mu began to slap young Master Guo's cheeks and mock at the same time. Even the girl he had just saved was in total shock, let alone the pumped-up men. Qiao Mu tells the guards not to move and threatens that if they refuse, he will kill young Mr. Guo. Recently majestic and allowed to do anything, the young master looked miserable. He didn't understand why someone would treat him like this when the city belonged to his father and therefore to him. He also begged Qiao Mu not to kill him. However, after looking at Guo, Qiao Mu was not going to let him go, so he told him to call his father. At the same moment, the real head of the city, Guo Yan, arrived. Qiao Mu, this man seemed very strong. Seeing such a pitiful picture of what had happened to his son, Guo Yan, in response to the words of the younger Guo, told him to shut up. Qiao Mu immediately pointed out that Guo Yan was good at martial arts, as just one phrase was able to cause so much tension. Guo Yan must really be a master, as he immediately noticed that Qiao Mu had not yet developed his strength, but could already hold a man with one hand. Guo Yan dismounted from his horse and began to approach his son and Qiao Mu. The pressure coming from him was incredibly strong, causing all the subordinates to fall to their knees. For a newcomer like Qiao Mu, this was also an impossible burden. Therefore, he told Guo Yan not to move and squeezed young Master Guo's throat even tighter. Guoyan is also not a slacker and notices that Qiao Mu can use his strength, but against his pressure he can't do anything. He even praises Qiao Mu as courage is a good quality. After considering the whole situation, Guoyan demonstrates what an excellent politician he is and how he can seem kind in dealing with issues. He asks Qiao Mu not to be so impulsive and thinks that they all have a lot to discuss. So he asks to let his son go, because in the future, as a father, he will take care of his son's behavior himself. Qiao Mu is disappointed by such a dull turn of events. He even changed his facial expression and absolutely doesn't understand why Guoyan didn't finish him off on the spot. He doesn't understand why Guoyan can't just kill him. The evaluation of the system didn't change in any way, and it still asked him to act boldly. And since the evaluation hasn't changed in any way, the guy needs to act. So Qiao Mu yells at Guoyan that his son was beaten up, but he stands there and does absolutely nothing. Guoyan, on the other hand, turned around to the two victims and apologized to their clan, because their clan is friends with his family. He promised to give them gifts next time for his son's rudeness. The victims didn't understand whether Guoyan really apologized to them, but they have no choice but to accept the apology, because Guoyan owns this town and they can't do anything to him. They accept the apology because Guoyan is so polite, and they didn't think that a situation like this could even arise between them. The other people in the city hid and watched from their hiding places. They doubted that Mr. Goon would forgive these victims, and saddened by how many unpleasant events had happened in such a short period of time. However, Qiao Mu was not going to give up. He yelled at Guoyan in front of other people, who thinks that if he pays everyone a large sum of money, everyone will suddenly forget everything, and that it seems Guoyan often cleans up after his son's crap. Qiao Mu recalls that the son of the city head ordered his guards to beat up people who blocked his path. And did Guoyan decide that all those crippled people would only have enough of his dirty money? Qiao Mu thinks that all this is too little to repay all these poor people in the city. These words and actions really annoy the head of the city. But Guoyan tries to look good in the eyes of others until the very end, so he says he just wants his son to be okay. But Qiao Mu insists and tells Guoyan that it's really very simple, and Guoyan should kill him. What will the majestic city leader Guoyan do in this situation? Qiao Mu continued to stand his ground and was unwilling to let go of the son of the city head. The people of the city were even surprised that a simple passerby decided to stand up for them. After all, this had never happened before. Guoyan did not continue to negotiate either. He exhaled and decided that it was impossible to negotiate. However, at the same moment, an old man with a terrifying aura materialized behind Qiao Mu's back. Qiao Mu didn't even have time to react in any way, before this old man twisted his arm and put Qiao Mu on his knee on the ground. As a result, the son of the city leader was saved. The system prompted the guy to act confidently. His mortality grade had reached a C+ grade at this moment. Qiao Mu was ecstatic, for this was the highest mortality rating he had ever received in his entire life. While he was thinking about this, Guoyan comes up to him and asks him what the name of the guy kneeling in front of him is. The guy immediately confesses that his name is Qiao Mu and that he has no patron. The only thing he wanted was to kill Mr. Guo. Kayama kept waiting for Guoyan to act. Guoyan took a look at the guy and said that he was brave. After that, the city leader told the old man to let Qiao Mu go. The old man and Qiao Mu are shocked by such an act. Guoyan notes that the guy is a brave man and that he likes it. Qiao Mu himself is disappointed in such a decision of the head of the city. Guoyan even says that if the boy is interested in joining the army, he can come to the city lord's mansion any time. In his heart, Qiao Mu is in tears because everything is not going according to the script. His well-thought-out plan collapsed overnight. After that, the head of the city turned around and did not even look at his son. And clearly not feeling the atmosphere hanging in the air, the son decided to call out to his father. And that was a big mistake, as the father gave his son a whipping. He told his son to shut his mouth. The father publicly called his son too arrogant and told him to get out of his sight. Guoyan then climbed onto his horse and addressed Qiao Mu again. He reminded the lad that he could come to his mansion at any time. Qiao Mu felt as if he had turned to stone, so disappointed and surprised by what he heard. The excellent acting of Guoyan smoothed the whole situation. After all, the residents noted that despite what a worthless son of the lord of the city, the lord himself is good. They even considered Qiao Mu lucky that the lord decided to take him seriously and didn't do anything to him. They even remarked that Qiao Mu was lucky because he would now be able to become a real protector. But surprisingly to the rest of the residents, Xiao Mu was not happy and almost cried. He didn't understand why everything was back to normal and why he was still alive. He didn't understand what was wrong with the city head and the old man and why they didn't finish him off. However, looking at the mortality score, he still saw that the score hadn't changed and was C+. He was surprised that the grade remained the same. From that, he concluded that the city lord might not have anything to do with his current grade. He even wondered if the grade would change if he died right now. Guy was interested in unraveling this problem. He wondered how events had changed and if everything in the system would now be different. Looking around, he noticed the townsfolk clapping at him for standing up for them. Even the brother and sister he had originally protected were also thanking the guy. After paying attention to all these details, the guy finally realized what the matter was. If he died at this moment, he would die as a young, righteous man who cursed the ruler of Yancheng City on the street, not as someone no one knows. Qiaomu rejoiced that he had finally managed to find a way to activate the immortality system. As long as he remained righteous and brave, his reputation and popularity would continue to grow. If he did die, he could become stronger. However, if he doesn't die, he can continue to accumulate rankings while alive. In that case, it doesn't even matter if he dies or survives, because he wins either way. And when the day still came when he died, the death would be the most brutal and powerful. He even counted on the SSS score. While the guy drooled thinking about the bonuses he would get, the girl looked at him like a fool, just like the rest of the town. At the same time, in the mansion of the city's ruler, young Guo had a cold compress applied to the site of the blow on his face. The son couldn't understand why his father didn't teach the insolent fellow a lesson. Guo Yan is not so stupid. He informs his son that they do not need to hurry in this matter, much less worry about it. Guo Yan noticed that when Xiao Mu was arrested, it was obvious from the faces of the surrounding people and the guy's face how much resentment the residents had accumulated about the current government. If the city's ruler were to kill Xiao Mu in front of the people, the image of the city's ruler that he had so diligently maintained would be destroyed in an instant. A smile appeared on Guo Yan's face that he could not hide. He decided the best option would be to hire a guy, and this move is to temper all that fervor and get popular support. Guo Yan looked at his son intently. He believes that his unruly son should have been punished long ago. Otherwise, his son would soon cause a disaster. The father informs his son that he is being punished and that he is forbidden to leave the house for a month. But this is not because the father is worried about his son or the people of the town. Guo Yan reports that during this time, the current saint may visit the Yancheng area. Therefore, the father decided to punish his son so that he would no longer be tempted to mischief at such a time. Stroking his injured cheek, the son wonders if Emperor Dian will really arrive. He even asks his father if the news is true. Guo Yan only smiles upon hearing this. Could his son really think that his father was lied to? Guo Yan also points out that besides this, the city will be full of assassins. The son wonders if his father will invite Xiao Mu as a guard. Guo Yan only notes that even if they don't punish him like that, they can deal with the guy in other ways. But things will be much easier if Xiao Mu joins as a guard at this time. Guo Yan is excited about his plan. He even smirks as he remembers that there are battles going on in the Eastern Mountain. Guo Yan would like to send Xiao Mu to deal with this problem, where the guy will face imminent doom. Xue and Xiao Mu were spending their time on the rooftop. Xue was surprised by the fact that Xiao Mu had beaten up the son of the head of the city. And the head of the city, instead of punishing him, invited the guy to join his army. The girl remarked that it all looked promising. Xiao Mu opted for the city ruler's mansion. Xue only sighed sadly. Since the guy insists on his own way, she has a technique that can help the guy in this matter. After that, she took out a book. Xiao Mu is ecstatic that he finally got his hands on some new techniques. Xue informs that these are secret martial arts techniques collected by the Qiao family. The girl reports that these techniques cause the muscles to self-damage, but the result can be seen in an instant. The organs are almost doubled in size. Xiao Mu looked at the book. It was the celestial demon dismantling technique. He was so excited to receive the new book, he even called it his charm. Xue notes that one should first train one's spiritual strength before starting physical training. The girl notes that Xiao Mu is a very capable guy, that his type of thinking is special, so she thinks that it will be easier for Xiao Mu to master this or that technique, unlike others. At this time, the system showed that there was a process of studying the book Celestial Demon Dismantling Technique. Shu notes that she didn't let the guy learn this skill to keep working hard. The girl just wants the guy to have a better chance of survival. Xiao Mu understood the girl's intentions. He himself was just ecstatic that he had finally gotten a new skill, and his progress would only increase. Soon, in the barracks of the Yancheng city garrison, Xiao Mu intensely spent his training with the spear and mastering his new skills. Since ancient times, spearmen were considered the lucky ones who were easier to be sent somewhere. Meanwhile, the rest of the military was not happy to see Xiao Mu in their ranks. One of them notes that Xiao Mu's strength is so-so and that he is a mediocre warrior. Another also points out that only a rank 9 rank holder can pull with them, so he doesn't understand why they have Xiao Mu in their ranks. Someone even notes that Xiao Mu dared to capture the son of the city's ruler, so he is a worthless person. He even considered the guy lucky that they had a kind ruler, and that he took pity on the guy and let him join the army. The man even remarks that they don't need to do anything, and just wait a few days, because the guy himself will die in battle. Xiao Mu decides to meditate for the time being. According to the system, Immortality Punch's mastery level was already 40%. He was relieved that he had already mastered the skills. Now all he had to do was wait for the moment someone decided to kill him. Suddenly, someone approached Xiao Mu and called out to the guy. Xiao Mu turned his attention to the man. It was an old man. He asked if the guy wanted to learn any skills. Xiao Mu was fine with this and decided to find out what skills old man Huang had. The old man corrected the guy, though, and said his last name was Bai. The other warriors started bantering, saying that he was named that because of his yellow teeth. Since Huang translated as yellow, the old man told the others to leave and not to disturb him. The old man informs him that he has a lot of interesting skills but will have to do some work. Xiao Mu's eyes even lit up at this venture. He hadn't done any physical activities yet, but he felt it was time to start. However, at that moment, a man with a beard came up and asked Xiao Mu to first find out what the job was, before agreeing. Slightly regaining his senses, Xiao Mu wondered what kind of work was in store for him, and the old man grinningly informs him that it is iron work. Xiao Mu cheerfully declares that what he loves most in his life is to study martial arts. He would like to master the skill of iron. Xiao Mu himself reflects on the fact that he will finally be able to perfect his body. The old man informs him that money is not needed for this, and that the most important thing is work. Looking around, the old man lowered his voice and informed the guy that in fact 4 months ago, Mr. Guo hit his pregnant wife, and it was impossible to save the child. And the old man's wife has become very weak after that incident. The old man asks the guy to help him take revenge. Xiao Mu also convinces the old man not to worry, because he wouldn't have taken the technique so easily anyway. The old man hopes for his benefactor. Suddenly, a warrior runs up and informs him that the guy has somewhere to go. After that, Xiao Mu arrived at the tent where the commander was. He reported that the head of a bandit gang, whose name was Song He, lived in the eastern part from the city. The man was furious that the bandit gang leader had become a king. Moreover, the bandit was in the business of stealing government property. The bandit then occupied the eastern lands, and after that it started to rage there. Also, this thief steals women, almost all the beauties taken. What an actor this commander is. He informs that if the women are lucky, they will be able to choose from the clutches of the bandit, and those who are unlucky will die, being at the bottom of society. Xiao Mu is fascinated by this idea. He thinks that this bandit is a beast, and that such bandits should be exterminated and disposed of immediately. The man says that he wants to gather an army of 1,000 men and leave the city in 5 days. Since he has heard of Xiao Mu's bravery, he suggests that Xiao Mu join them and be the pioneer. Xiao Mu does not hesitate to agree to such a proposal. Xiao Mu notices that in an army of 1,000 men, there are only a few people with the same strength as himself. But he was chosen as the pioneer. The guy is not a fool. He did not believe in this nonsense that he was chosen just because he was brave. He immediately realized that this is the plan of the ruler of the city. He even rejoiced that finally his plan would be implemented properly. The commander was also surprised that the guy agreed right away. He decides that either the guy is in trouble with his head, or he needs to be more careful with the guy. At least the man isn't a complete fool, since instead of being pleased, he was immediately wary of the guy. 5 days later, in the mountains to the east, an old man approached Xiao Mu. He said he knew the area and could show the way. Since there wasn't even a hint of an enemy camp there, the old man suggested moving a little to the west since there was a valley. The guy agreed to the old man's suggestion, but told him to follow behind him, as something might happen to the old man. The old man was surprised at the care shown by the lad. He remarked that the guy was the best he had ever met. While the guy and the old man were talking, a group of military men were watching them closely. The old man was telling the guy that his daughter was incredibly strong. Even in her 15 years, she was lifting incredibly heavy things. The old man asked what Chow Mu was like in his 15 years. The guy shared with the old man that at the age of 15 he could easily cut up people. The old man didn't really believe him, but the guy asked the old man not to gossip about it. Suddenly, Chow Mu noticed a change in the atmosphere. At the same instant, a rain of arrows rained down on them. Chow Mu immediately kicked the old man in the stomach so that the old man flew away from the arrows that were aimed at the guy. Chow Mu then used the rotation of his spear to deflect the arrows flying towards him. However, he didn't manage to reflect all the arrows, and many arrows hit him directly. He even complained that in the movies, such techniques looked much more epic. At that moment, bandits with bows and arrows and knives jumped out of the bushes and scared the old man. Chow Mu was well aware that his death was approaching rather quickly. The system's data began to update, and he realized that the steeper the battle, the better the mortality estimate. He realized that no one would be able to keep him from dying today. Without thinking for a second, Chow Mu grabbed his spear and rushed into the battle with the bandits. The clash between the people on Chow Mu's side and the bandits began. Even in his badly wounded state, Chow Mu easily confronted the bandits with his spear, while the old man was frightened by every attack of the bandits in his direction. The guy was having fun as he jumped from one bandit to another all wounded. Even the warriors that came with him noticed pretty quickly that the guy was somehow out of control and frantic. Seeing that the guy was dealing with them so easily, the bandits rushed to run as far away from him as possible. This moment was very upsetting for the guy. After looking at the old man and pulling the arrow out of his body, the guy complained about stopping the bleeding. The old man fell on his knees and bowed to Chow Mu. He sadly noted that he had to repay Chow Mu for Chow Mu being wounded by 3 enemy arrows while defending him. Chow Mu did not expect such a reaction at all, as he had completely different plans. While people were bandaging Chow Mu's wounds with bandages, the guy complained that one city was worse than the other. He originally wanted to kill his opponents, but he didn't expect his opponents to just run away from him. The man with the beard noted that Chow Mu had also saved the old man's life, although he had long ago paid everything for the techniques he had gotten from the old man. The old man fell to his knees again and started bowing to Chow Mu. The guy was more interested in whether the man with the beard had something interesting for him. The man with the beard admitted that he didn't bring it with him, but he had something in the city. He also admitted that not many people would be able to block a rain of arrows with just a spear, so he considered the old man incredibly lucky. The old man fell to his knees once again and started bowing to the guy. Chow Mu thought the recent incident was nothing, but he was already looking forward to returning to the city to find out what the bearded man had in store for him. Soon they reached the place indicated by the old man. Looking up, he noted that the mouth of the valley was incredibly narrow, but the vegetation was tall. He assumed that there was a hut of bandits in front, or an ambush waiting for them. He realized that if they went further, the risk of death would increase. Turning to the old man, Chow Mu asked him the name of the valley, but the old man didn't know the answer to that question. After thinking for a bit, he scratched out Valley of the Fallen Tree on a tree with his spear. He explained to the others that since no name was given, he decided to call this Valley of the Fallen Tree. The guy was anticipating that this place would most likely be the place of his death, so it must have a good name. Suddenly, the commander rode up to them on his horse. He asked Chow Mu why they still hadn't advanced. The guy started complaining that they were attacked by bandits and it was getting incredibly creepy. However, the commander yelled at him because the guy was a pioneer and he shouldn't be scared. Besides, the commander promised that if Chow Mu was in trouble, he would come to his rescue. Therefore, the commander felt that there was no need to fear the battle. He was even indignant that the guy was going to disobey his order. However, he himself thought that if Chow Mu disobeyed him, it would be even better, because he would have a reason to kill Chow Mu here and now. Contrary to his wishes, Qiao Mu suddenly stepped forward and said that he would fulfill the commander's order. The guy decided that he would not disobey the commander because it was much better for him to die at the hand of a bandit than to disobey the commander. When he would sort out all the problems, he would definitely get to the general. As soon as he descended into the gorge of the valley, bandits jumped out from everywhere. The old man was disappointed that there had been an ambush, and there were too few of them to deal with the bandits. Qiao Mu ordered everyone not to stand, but to flee. All the warriors under Qiao Mu's command rushed to flee. However, Qiao Mu was not going to run anywhere and confronted the bandits. The old man was annoyed that the leader was risking his life protecting them. The man with the beard also wanted to help the guy confront the bandits. However, Qiao Mu yelled at them, saying that they were obliged not to return and that it was an order. At that moment, the commander appeared and ordered the others not to retreat. He then added that it was the general's order. Qiao Mu was upset that he couldn't die if the whole army started fighting. His squad was encouraged and rushed to attack the bandits. Qiao Mu told the old man to go away, so that the old man would not abandon his wife and could take care of his children. However, even though the old man was cowardly, he didn't want to just watch the leader die. The guy told the others to just stand by and watch on the sidelines as he dealt with the bandits. He believed that since they didn't know how, there was no need to try. Qiao Mu pointed out that if they couldn't die in this battle with the bandits, then he would have to die but destroy the bandit lair. Will he succeed in realizing his vision? And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you would like to see a sequel, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your wishes in the comments. You can also subscribe to Telegram to know about new videos. Bye everybody.